Hey, Ryan. I just wanted to get your opinion on what you thought of Trump picking that guy for the border that I believe worked for him during the first administration. Tom,
Yeah,
whatever his name was.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I talked about that yesterday and Monday.
Right.
So this is a guy, in my personal opinion, this is a guy who wants to deport 20 million people. He said it. That's how we know it. And then when asked about separating families, he said, well, we don't have to separate families. They can just go with them. He's talking not just about criminals and bad people that enter this country. We know most of them are not bad people. He's talking about people that have been in this country also for decades that pay taxes, that have kids that were born here. Now, do I think they're going to execute that? I'm sorry, go ahead.
Did these people come legally or illegally?
So what I'm referring to right now, while
Right.
some of these people might have come here illegally, some of those people have been living here for decades and have had children here that were born in America. And when he's
Right.
asked, and this is my biggest issue, when he's asked about that, can we do this without separating families? His answer is yes, they can all go too. I have a problem with that. Listen, if you come into this country illegally and you commit a heinous crime or act, I want you in prison or deported or both. I think most of America would agree with that. But those aren't the people that I'm concerned about. I'm concerned about the good people that have lived in this country while they might be undocumented. They work.
But why do they get to stay? Because they're illegal. Why do they get to stay?
Okay, so the question is, why do they get to stay because they're illegal? And what I am saying is there should be a pathway to citizenship for these people that have been here for decades. Now, they should have to pay a fine, maybe have some other things that they might need to do before they become legal.
Why should there be a pathway to citizenship?
I'm giving you the answer because many of these people in this country provide services and help the economy. They pay their taxes. Many of these people pay their taxes. They don't.
How is paying taxes relevant to if you come to the country illegally?
I'm answering.
Just because you pay taxes doesn't mean you get to stay here. You don't
because you're I'll tell you why. Because there is plenty of benefits for having some of these people here. Now let me ask you a question because obviously we fundamentally disagree on this. Do you think every person in this country that is undocumented, regardless of their family situation, regardless of whether they pay taxes or not, regardless of whether they've had kids that were naturally born in America, do you believe that we should just randomly deport grandmothers and people that have been in this country for decades, because some of these people a lot of them have lived here for years, that we should just break up families and deport everybody? Is that your position, or is there no middle ground with you and we can't have a conversation and meet in the middle?
No. Here's the thing. You're saying undocumented, and this is what people like to do. They like to say undocumented instead of saying illegal.
It doesn't.
Because undocumented.
Okay, but hold on.
sounds a lot nicer,
Okay.
but
So
these
we'll.
people are here
Okay.
illegally.
Okay. So I'll ask the same question, but use
Just
a different
because
word.
it's an old grandma doesn't mean it's no.
I'll ask the
Sure,
same question,
sure.
but use a different word. Undocumented or illegal are two of the same things, in my opinion. I don't know why that's an issue for you, but I'll word it differently. That's fine. I'll even word it to your liking, but I still want you to answer the question. Are you saying to me that everybody that's in this country illegally, even if they've lived here for decades, pay taxes, haven't committed any other crimes other than years ago coming into this country illegally, that have children that were born in this country, they might mow your lawn, they might cook your food,
Right.
doesn't matter, but they're working class people here, they're decent people, but they didn't come to the country legally years ago. Are you telling me it doesn't matter what your family situation, doesn't matter what your job situation is, doesn't matter how long you've been here, you're okay with deporting every single person in this country, whether you want to use the term undocumented or illegal? You're okay with every single one of those people, and if that means all these families separated. Are you okay with that, or are you willing to negotiate and meet somewhere in the middle?
Oh, I mean, I could certainly say I'm certainly willing to negotiate, but I'm not going to totally rule out deporting them. It's like, look, if you commit a crime and then you say to the people arresting you, listen, I have kids, you can't separate me from my kids. You committed the crime. If you
all right, let's talk about that
legally and then have children.
Let's talk about
those
that.
Children are
understood. Let's talk about that for a moment. I want to know if you're consistent.
Totally writing off what you're saying for what it's worth.
Okay, I understand.
Okay,
I
sure.
understand. I understand what you're saying. And I'm not trying to play whataboutism here, but I just want to look for some consistency. You agree that if you commit a crime, you should be held to the highest extent of the law for the most part. Is that what you're saying? Is that a fair assessment?
More or less, yeah.
Okay, more or less.
Yeah,
okay,
I would say so.
Fair
That's
enough.
a blanket statement. Sure.
Fair enough. Donald Trump is a 34-count felon. Do you think Donald Trump should be held to that same standard?
Yeah, the standards of whatever crimes he was convicted of.
Okay, but we have the leader of the free world now, and all those crimes and indictments are going to all go away. Are you okay with that?
Well, I'd have to look at each specific one.
Okay, well, let's go with one right now. Let's go with one right now.
Sure.
A jury found that Donald Trump is a 34-count convicted felon. We all know that Donald Trump is not going to be held to the standard that you or I would to be held. Why? Because he's elected as the president of the United States. We all know that if he wasn't elected, he would have to face the music with the indictments and with these 34-count felony charges. But we know all these charges are going to go away. So my question to you is, are you okay with that? You're not okay, and we're having a conversation about that, with people in this country illegally. Are you okay with a 34-count felon not being held to the same standard that you or I would be held to? I guess that's my question.
If you're asking me, am I okay with a politician not being held to the same standard, the answer is no. I mean, obviously, these people get held to different standards on really any party line.
Okay, so we agree there.
Sure.
So we agree there that Donald Trump is not being held to account for any of the crimes that he committed or the alleged crimes and the indictments. So we agree there. So certainly the guy who we both agree, and I appreciate your honesty, that the guy that's not being held to account is the guy, the leader of the free world, that wants to hold all others to account. Some would argue that have not done as serious as what he has done. They might have come to this country illegally, but many of these people have families, kids that were born here, and we've gone over this time and time again.
I mean, yeah, but you keep saying that as if that's supposed to give them a pass. Why do they get a pass just because they have families here?
So it's not about a pass. To me, here's what it is about. You have children and families that shouldn't be broken apart. Now, I do believe that they should have to pay a fine, and I do believe there should be some way of a pathway to citizenship so that we can avoid deporting some of these people that I think are good people. It doesn't mean
that there is a pathway to citizenship. You come here legally through the legal channel.
Again, have you talked to people that have gone through that process, sir, or that have struggled to go through the process?
I have.
And how long did it take
a guy who came. It took him about 10 years. I'm not under the assumption
so that's my point. So here's what we should do.
time.
Okay, you made my point for me. That's exactly what I was just going to say. So here's what we should be doing first, in my opinion, and you can tell me whether you disagree or not. I agree that if you're a criminal in this country illegally and you've committed crimes that are very serious other than crossing the border illegally, I want you out. I don't have a problem with that, and I think most of America agrees. Why not, after that, let's come up with an easier pathway to citizenship so people don't have to wait 10 years to be a legal citizen. That's number one. Number two, let's come up with a pathway to citizenship where maybe there are fines involved and other ways of allowing people that are in this country illegally, that have children that were born here, that are married, so on and so forth, that pay taxes, to find a pathway that won't take 10 years and won't deport them so they're separated from their kids. Why can't we just agree on those basic things? Let's get the bipartisan border bill back in place, which is Kamala Harris wanted to do that. I bet you Donald Trump won't do it. He just wants to deport 20 million people. So why not do the extremes, and why go to meeting somewhere in the middle? Let's get dangerous people in this country out of the country. Let's make it a little bit easier than a 10-year wait for someone to become legal. And then let's talk about border security. Why not do those things?
Well, in regards to the 20 million people that are here, it's pretty much impossible to do anything other than what you suggested. I mean, even if you could make the strongest case that these people should be deported just for sake of argument, it's pretty much impractical. It's just not feasible.
Then, okay,
to do.
so are you saying
really
Donald Trump?
Okay,
so I don't know who you voted for, but I guess it doesn't really matter in this conversation. But you have the guy who's going to be the next president. At a minimum, you're admitting that he's saying impractical things. The war is going to be over in 24 hours in the Ukraine. We're going to deport 20 million people. I mean, he's saying impractical
things. Going to happen.
Okay, well, then why is he saying those things then? Is he just a liar? Did he just say it to get voted in?
No. First of all, I think he actually believes those things. He probably does think those things are going to happen. But regardless, a lot of people voted for him for reasons outside of that. He didn't get all these votes because people thought he was going to end the war in Ukraine in a day. He got these votes because people were mad with the current administration for a whole bunch of reasons, in relation to immigration and not related to immigration. I agree that he's not really going to get these things done. But before even getting these people out of the country, which again is never going to happen, you have to still at least close the border to the people that are still currently.
Then why didn't he shut down the border when he was president?
Oh, he should have, and I agree that he should have. He should have. I mean, look, but when you look at the border the illegal crossings under him, they were, assuming you believe the numbers, they say 2.1 million, give or take, and under Biden's administration, they say it's upwards of 8 to 10 million. I mean, there's a very clear difference in who handled the border better, and it's very obviously Trump.
Well, here's
he did 10 times of a better job.
Well, I would disagree with your characterization that he did 10 times of a better job, where the numbers went way down in 2020 under Donald Trump because we were in a global pandemic. If you look at the numbers, I think 1 year it went up, 1 year it went down, 1 year it went back up, and then it went back down in 2020. Donald Trump never shut down the border. And when you look at
I'm not claiming he did.
And you look at the last couple months of Joe Biden's administration, less people are crossing the border illegally now than they did when Donald Trump left office.
Well, yeah, that's because they realized, that's because the Biden administration realized just how unpopular they were becoming in election season. They realized that they were going to lose. And I mean, they ultimately did lose, but they realized they were going to lose because so many people were coming in and so many people were mad.
You can come up with reasons why that is, but here's what I would say.
Why do you think all these people?
Here's what I would say to that. I would say that we have a lot of problems in this country. Certainly, border security is one of them. But per capita, you have a less chance of being the victim of a crime from somebody who is undocumented than an American citizen. Donald Trump and many on the right wing in the MAGA base make it sound like these people that are illegals, they're going to rape your kids, they're going to kidnap your family. There are some bad cases, but here's my biggest problem.
Even if they're all angels that come here and are going to make our lives amazing, they're not allowed to be here. They don't just get a pass.
But we've been there already, and I told you my feelings on what I think should happen to many of these decent people that live in this country. And what I don't like are the lies on the far right, the scare tactics on the far right, the dehumanizing of these people. They're eating our cats and dogs. That was even legal Haitian immigrants. I don't like the lies and the scare tactics. These are decent human beings, and many on the far right want to dehumanize them. And I do think that there are a lot of MAGA supporters in his base that don't want to see brown people coming into this country. Now, they might say, well, we don't mind. We just want to see them come in the right way. I don't believe a lot of them. They want to see this country remain white as the predominant race in this country. That is how I feel with his base. Now, it's fair to have normal conversations about this on what we should do with these people that are here, but that's not what Donald Trump is doing, and that's not who Mr. Home, I believe his name is, that's not what he is doing. They're talking about deporting everybody. And I agree with you, by the way. It's probably not logical. It's probably not going to happen, but they're still saying it, and these are leaders of the country, and I don't want leaders of our country saying things that are not feasible. I don't want leaders of our country saying things that, as even you put it, and I agree with you, are not feasible, are not going to happen. At a minimum, it makes Donald Trump incompetent, and he's saying things that he cannot do and cannot accomplish, yet these are the same people who said, well, I don't know what Kamala Harris's plan is. You've got the guy who's going to be the next president of the United States who doesn't know what he's doing, and you have a guy who's going to be the border czar, who's claiming he's going to do things that are not feasible, that he's not capable of doing, this country's not capable of doing. Thank you for the call.